Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Fahim, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Fahim.
Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Lightning Strike. Mohammed Fahim here with my team, Dr. Sheila White, Adriana Alvarez, Dali Silverberg. Carl Moose will be joining us shortly, and also we have got former Congressman Marie Newman joining us, and legislative attorney and author Maria Mozaffar joining us with their segments in the second hour of the show. But today, I want to really talk about the Chicago machine, folks. Let us talk about how the machine is still moving and how the people are starting to move faster. In Chicago, Congressman Chuy Garcia waits until the last day to say he's not running. And his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, files as the only candidate in the case. I mean, what is happening, folks? Come on, that's not democracy. That's a handoff behind closed doors. It's the same tired machine politics that keeps new voices out and the same insiders in. But while Chicago's stuck replaying old tricks, New York is flipping the script. Zohran Mamdani wins because he built from the ground up, powered by people, not party bosses. That's what real democracy looks like, folks. And yet, even as the progressives celebrate that, there's a warning siren in the numbers. Andrew Cuomo, yes, the scandal-scarred ex-governor, still got over 600,000 votes. That's not nostalgia. That's frustration. That's voters saying, we are not inspired by what's on offer. So here's the lesson, plain and simple. The Democratic Party can't keep playing the old game. The machine may still grind, but the people are watching, organizing, and demanding better. If the party doesn't open the doors now, the voters will kick them down later. Chicago, New York, different cities, same truth. The future does not belong to the machine. It belongs to the movement. That is something that I wanted to share with you guys today. This is our country, folks. Take it back. Just think about it. Were there no other qualified candidates in the 2nd District to run for Chuy Garcia's seat? What is this? This is nothing but the machine thumbing its nose at the voters and saying, we don't care what you think. We control this. On that note, I want to bring in Dr. Sheila White to introduce our person of the week today. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my camera this morning, but you know what? This is the perfect time to have this particular individual on. What you just said, Mohammed, she's a pro at this. So we got the right one, baby, on this morning. Miss Chastity Wells is a seasonal government professional with more than 25 years of experience across the local, state, and regional areas in the federal system. She served as a mayor, a village manager, city councilor, and congressional staffer and school board member, bringing comprehensive understanding of government, policy, and organizational transformation. As she draws on her social work background, Chastity specializes in facilitating interviews, staff training, leadership, and developmental initiatives that helps teams navigate complex issues. She has such a long resume. I want to bring her in this morning. And Chastity, welcome to the Lightning Strike. To first get your take on what Mr. Mohammed said on this morning. What's going on with Chicago politics, first of all, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, good morning to all of you, and thank you for having me on today. I am transparent. I have never lived in Chicago.
Okay.
I'm a native of Illinois. However, I do agree with Mohammed's comments. I think that movements are powered by people, and people should be driving movements, not designated bosses, as Muhammad referenced. People need to have a voice. And I believe that's one of the reasons why we see so many people not invested in our system, because they feel like they don't have a voice. So we need to be conducting our politics in a way that empowers people and helps them to see that, they need to be invested.
Chastity, it's really important. I'm glad you said that, because I want to talk a little bit about female mayors. You have experience in this because you were a female mayor before. The political violence is at a high rate, more than the male counterparts. According to a results poll from the new study conducted by the Mayor's Innovation Project. And according to that poll, female mayoral candidates reported experiencing a higher number of harassment while campaigning as well as in office. Can you elaborate on a little bit on that? Because I know there was a big article that came out and you had a lot to do with that article being published.
Yes, thank you. I have been a steering committee member with the Mayor's Innovation Project, which is hosted out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And it was not a poll, it was over a year of research that we did. We sent out surveys to over 200 mayors, and we conducted interviews with 50 women mayors. I was a co-researcher on this project, helping to develop the questions, but also helping to facilitate the interviews. And what we found is that women are disproportionately impacted when it comes to serving in public office. Women are 50% of our population in the United States, more than 50%, and we are 50% of the workforce, but we are underrepresented in elected leadership. And what our research shows is that women pay a higher cost. They are harassed, they are threatened, their families are harassed and threatened. Their competence is questioned. There are systemic practices in place to make it very difficult for women when they get elected. I was the first Black mayor elected in my city's history in Kankakee, Illinois. And immediately upon my election, the tactics started. And that's things like trying to change ordinances that restrict the mayor's power, reducing the mayor's travel budget. These are different things that we've seen, stories that we heard, but the research actually confirmed that these are barriers that women face when they run for public office, particularly women mayors.
And I think that's important to bring up, because a lot of people don't realize the inequity that's involved with women and the harassment that they have while campaigning. They want to see women run, but when they're running, they don't realize a lot of the back things that are happening across the land with women. There's a need for confronting these systematic biases and inequities, especially since the DEI backlash has happened. What are your thoughts on this when dealing with corporations that you're working with?
Absolutely. There's women are underpaid. We know that. We've seen data consistently over the years that women make about 76, cents on the dollar of their white male counterparts. And when you factor in women of color, whether those are Black women, Latina women, Asian women, those numbers, become even more staggering. So pay equity is certainly an issue that needs to be addressed. Family supportive policies. Many women are mothers, and they need to have support. It's mind-boggling to me. I believe there's only one woman serving in our U.S. Congress that is a single mother, and we have millions of single mothers in the United States of America. So that speaks to the challenge and the problems that we have when we don't have adequate representation. And what I found with the research is, after hearing these stories from these women that are heartbreaking, the majority of women still encourage women to run for office, because we understand how important it is to have representation and to have the lived experiences of women when we are, putting together public policy for this country.
Hey, Chastity, I wanted to bring in something interesting over here. Zohran Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of New York, you see his transition team?
I saw I've not seen his transition team, but I was reading something, and I believe it's predominantly women, correct?
It's all women, not just predominantly women. It's 5 women, and the team of co-chairs includes Lena Khan, the former FTC commissioner, who is really, really making a lot of the billionaires really nervous now. It includes the former deputy mayor Maria Torres Springer, the United Way of New York City head Grace Bonilla, Melanie Hartzog, who is a former deputy mayor for Health and Human Services, and political consultant Elena Leopold. I mean, just look at this power-packed team and compare that to the Fox News anchors that are part of the Trump administration.
Right, exactly. Well,
Yep,
there's been a very orchestrated effort to, I say, make America white again.
yep,
Um, when you look at the Trump administration, there's, there's no diversity. He's erasing Black people, getting rid of qualified um, people who are, considered experts in the work that they do, and putting people there that are just going to, you know, follow his directives without any regard for ethics, integrity, or the concerns of the American people.
yep.
Chastity, I love your transparency because you're going to tell it like it is with purpose and power. You have an organization, you work with, you're a catalyst for transformation. You empower companies, individuals to navigate this complex political environments, I'll say. How do you help them to move towards more equity driven outcomes, because this is the world that we're in? I think everybody has the blues now. It used to be we're not singing rock and roll. We're all singing the blues for what's going on now in our nation. But how do we move towards more equity driven outcomes for the companies that you're working with and that you're helping to transform?
A lot of it starts with awareness. I just actually had an issue this week with some people that I'm working with, raising awareness, and we have to have some basic respect for one another as human beings, honoring each other's humanity. Um,
Yes.
so being able to have conversations and raise awareness when these things are happening. I really view racism, white supremacy as a disease, and it has impacted all of us. Everybody's affected by it, including white people. And
Mhm.
part of, President Trump's, part of his strategy is to keep people uneducated. He actually said he
Hey,
loves
honey.
poorly educated. That's why he's attacking academic institutions. He's not a fan of critical thinking or intelligence or challenging authority, all those healthy things that make a democracy what it is. And so for me, it's about raising awareness. And when it happens, we have to be able to have conversations about it. And people have to be committed to doing their own work. It is not the responsibility when a person of color has been harmed or a group has been harmed. It's not the responsibility of that group to fix the problem. People of color did not create white supremacy and racism in this country. And so, a
Exactly.
lot of people proclaim to be allies and proclaim to be progressive, but, they have to be challenged to do their work. And, that has to be done from a place of respect and a place of, honoring their humanity as well, because they also have been, like I said, impacted by this. But we have to educate ourselves. We have to talk to people outside of our circles. As much as I hate watching, I'm not a fan of Fox News. Occasionally I turn it on to hear what's going on, to hear what's being said on the other side, because we do need to listen to different viewpoints. um, you're never going to find someone that is going to do everything you want them to do, or you will agree on every policy position they have.
Yep.
You do want someone that is making decisions that's in the best interest of most of our people and who are functioning with integrity, and the values that we claim to, uphold in the country.
Well, Chastity, thank you so much for joining us. It's 8:20, folks, and we've got our person of the week, Chastity Wells Armstrong. And Sheila, if you
Yes.
could please give her introduction again while we wind up this segment.
You know, this is a person that is for the time right now. Mrs. Wells is a former mayor of the city of Kankakee. She's a village manager, city councilor, congressional staffer, and leadership strategist for the municipal teams and a creator for the scale framework for the public sector. I want you to be able to talk a little bit about the work you're doing in the last minute before we go on our break, because you're doing some phenomenal work. Could you just give us a little bit of a snippet of how they can get in contact with you with this awesome work that you're doing?
Thank you all again for having me. My website is chastitywells.com. It's Chastity, Chasity, one T, wells.com. If you go to my website, at the bottom of the page, there is an opportunity for you to subscribe to my newsletter. It's called The Leadership Catalyst. And I write a bi-monthly newsletter that comes out on the 2nd and the 4th Wednesday of the month. In that newsletter, I provide free resources for leaders, for mayors, for managers, department directors, municipal teams. And I have 3 offers. If you want to work with me, there's that information is on the website. So I do private work with leaders. It's called a Catalyst Power Retainer. And then I come in and do customized workshops and training with teams as well. And I have an assessment also that I provide that's rooted in my framework based on my social work background and experiences. So I want to thank you all again, encourage you all to, stay connected in your community, continue to build community at the local level. That's the way that we fight back against everything that's happening.
Awesome.
Regime.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chastity, for joining us. Folks, it's about 8:21. We'll take a quick break and come back on the other side of the break with Tim Brophy, Will County Treasurer, who's running again to retain his place as Will County Treasurer. You're tuned in to the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Chastity, again, thank you so much for being our person of the week. Awesome background. And we hope that we can continue this relationship. We'll be right back after this break. Tim Brophy joining us. Good morning, Tim. If you could please unmute yourself. And boy, you look good.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is it snowing where you are?
Sorry, no, not yet. I don't see any here.
It was still snowing where I am over here. But thank you so much for joining us. So, Tim, you have been the Will County Treasurer since 2018.
Yes.
What made you get into this gig?
Well, I always say to folks, I've done many different jobs to make a living, but the only calling I've ever heard was to public service and political office. I ran as a young man when I just got out of college for the Joliet City Council. Was not successful that first time, but ran again in 95, and then I served 4 terms, 16 years on the Joliet City Council. So
Wow.
that really gave me a taste of real constituent services, because those city matters, the local matters are very important to people, and the phone rang all the time. It was a part-time pay, but it was a full-time attention you had to pay to those constituents.
I know, Tim. I mean, I'm the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals Commissioner over here in Plainfield.
Right.
And people think, yeah, it's a part-time gig. No, there's a lot more that goes into it before every meeting. So as the Will County Treasurer, what do you consider your top 3 accomplishments in this role?
Well, I'll give you a couple. First of all, when I came into office, the staff, there were 19 employees in the office when I started. Their work was very siloed, very much separated. This is my turf. This is your turf. You get yours done. Too bad. If you're not done, I'm done. That kind of attitude. The culture was not a team culture in the office. So I very quickly changed that culture. And now we have incentives in place and promotions that are based on cooperation, teamwork, cross-training, so that we never have any critical tasks unmanned because we have a lot of statutory deadlines to meet in the treasurer's office. And so we're not counting on simply one person who knows that task, but multiple people know that task. It was important. The other thing we did was in May of each year, we collect a lot of money in real estate taxes. This year it'll be approximately $2.4 billion, billion with a B. And so that money comes in quickly, a lot of it at one time. We have the two due dates, but a lot of it comes in May. And there was some time when those funds, before I took office, were just sitting at the large bank. I don't want to mention names, but without any interest earnings. And even though they were only there a couple of days and maybe a week and a half, because of my banking background, I understood that we could take advantage of overnight swaps and sweeps to make sure that those funds were put to productive use, and in return, earn an interest, a yield to the county. Last year, that effort yielded over $2 million in additional interest earnings to the county. That wasn't done before. And so, yeah, you're muted, Mohammed, you're on mute. Mohammed, can you?
Sorry,
There
folks.
you
I was muted because I was trying to clear
Yeah.
my throat. There's snow outside, and I've got a frog in my throat. So go figure that out.
That's all
So, Tim, honestly, that is something that is so fiscal responsibility for the position that you've shown. A lot of people don't understand it, that there is a lot more to making things work properly, especially
right.
in our government offices. When I was working with the Department of Employment Security, the Illinois WorkNet system, as one of the directors in the Arlington Heights office, and you talk about people not wanting to do their job properly. These people did not even want to learn a new skill while working in a government office. So I had a real hard time
Yeah.
trying to bring them up to customer service standards. But
Right.
let me ask you this: what are the key lessons that you have learned while serving in this office?
Sure. It's that no matter how much education we try to do, no matter how much information we put on the website, no matter how much information we put on the back of the tax bill, there are still dozens and dozens of constituents that will need our help, our hand-holding, our voice services over the telephone, and our in-person services every day. There just simply is not a way to educate the entire property tax paying population of Will County at the same level. And so it's important. The people in the office are important. As I said, now we started with 19, and even though the county has grown and the work has grown, the number of transactions has grown, I have reduced the staff to 18. I don't know of many other government offices that can say that over a period of 7 years that they've reduced staff, but we're doing more with fewer people in the office, and we're getting the job done well.
And how have you improved the transparency and public access to county financial information during your term?
Sure. We completely revamped the website. Again, there's some in each elected office that statutory elected official can do a lot of things with the office that they have. In our case, the treasurer had a separate website from the county's main site, and I revamped that. I folded it into the main county site. So there's seamless transaction. When you go to the county, you can find the treasurer. You don't have to go find a treasurer separately. Then with that revamp, we built that site from the user position forward. Instead of from a technical person's perspective, we wanted to make sure that the first time user to that site would easily navigate toward the information they needed. And of course, most of those are heading toward payment processes. And so I think if you look at the website now, you'll find that it's so much more constituent friendly, taxpayer friendly, and that's been a big driver. We
So
put a
when
lot
you
of information there too.
when you talk about the website, what is the website? How do people find you?
Sure. Treasurer.willcounty.gov. So
Very
the
simple.
treasurer,
Treasurer.willcounty.gov.
treasurer.willcounty.gov.
So, what initiatives have you implemented, Tim, to improve efficiency in tax collection, investment management,
Yeah.
budget reporting? I know you just said something about, not keeping money, when money is not collecting interest for even 2 days. That was like millions of
Right.
dollars. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, people mistakenly think that the skill necessary for the treasurer's office is a CPA. or
Yeah.
some accounting degree. When in fact, the auditor, we have an auditor's office in Will County. That's
Yep.
where the CPA work is being done. And we have a finance department under the Will County executive. And that's where the budget work is being done, the other accounting work. The skills necessary, the important skills in the treasurer's office are real estate knowledge and banking. So with those skills, I've made sure that we focus on the real estate, the problems we have in the treasurer's office with collecting taxes from people sometimes are deeply embedded in the complications of the real estate transaction. And so unless you understand that and can undo that, untie those knots, you can't fix the problem that taxpayers have, title companies, attorneys, trust companies, you name it. Those problems are solved by understanding the real estate transaction. The other part of it with banking is that you have to understand how to make every dollar work every day, every minute of every day. And so by using my banking background, I've done that with every time we've got revenue in, we make sure that the excesses are invested and that the liquidity necessary for the county departments are there and ready for them when they need it, but we don't have too much excess laying around that isn't put to work.
Wonderful. Folks, you're tuned in to the Lightning Strike Talk Radio Show. We come every Sunday morning on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Our guest today is Tim Brophy, Will County Treasurer, who is running for another term in office. So, Tim, what are your goals or priorities now if re-elected for another term?
Sure. So the tax cycle, what we refer to as a very complicated system that involves multiple departments within the county. I do not control it myself. The clerk doesn't control it. The IT department. We need multiple hands on this because every time a parcel changes in the county, the mapping area has to understand what changed. The supervisor of assessments has to understand what changed. Of course, the treasurer for creating the correct bill that would go out to that parcel. The Will County clerk is very involved in the tax cycle because of their role in collecting levies and producing tax rates. And then of course our IT department. This system we use right now is exhausted. It is taxed. We need to revamp this. We need to do it carefully because off the shelf products are not working for large counties like ours. We're watching our neighbor counties struggle with a product they bought off the shelf, and years later they're still trying to tweak it to get it to work right. Luckily, we have a fantastic information technology department in the building, and we've got a custom built system, but we've reached the limits of that system. I won't pretend to understand all of that on the IT end, but I know that it's important that when you want to get bills out on time, when you want to get, we have 284,000 separate tax bills, each one of them with different information on it. They have to go out on time and they have to go out accurately. So that just doesn't happen by chance. It's important that we get this tax cycle team together and revamp the system we use.
Awesome.
That's a big goal. There are a lot of little ones in the weeds I won't bore you with.
Okay. So one of the things that I learned in talking with you today is obviously, I was thinking honestly that you have to be a CPA in order to be a treasurer, but you explained it very well that the CPA's function is slightly different from what the skills that are required for a county treasurer's position. So, Tim, in this respect now, what does ethical leadership mean to you in this position?
Sure. Well, in my case, it means doing the right thing no matter whether anyone's watching or not. In my case, we have a lot of flexibility with our budget, but I spend $0 on travel. Now, we have meetings in Springfield. There are treasurer associations that meet. There are the National Association of County Officers that meets in Washington, D.C. I could easily expense a train ticket and hotel rooms and so forth. I haven't done that. Because most of my work, it's important to be in the office and available to constituents. The large counties don't have as much benefit from those meetings and those seminars as the small ones do. Small ones need the help. They gather together, they learn new things. Being a large county, it would be wasteful, I think, to travel. And so I haven't done that. Zero travel budget in the treasurer's office.
Awesome. Thank you. And when are the elections again?
So March is a primary. I'm grateful that I have no primary opponent. I've got the respect of my party teammates, and so I'll be on the March ballot without an opponent. And then in November of 26 is when I'll face a Republican opponent for reelection.
Awesome. And we'll definitely want to bring you back again before the general elections, Tim, to again talk to people and share your vision of what you want to do. But in one sentence now, before I let you go, why should voters choose you to retain your position?
Sure. Couple of reasons. So one, like I said, we're doing more with fewer people. I've found a way to make sure that we use the technology, the efficiencies of technology, and not just replace somebody because I could. That's an important thing. Most government offices grow by the number of people, and we're doing more with fewer people. That's really important. The other thing is that my team has, not too recently, but fairly recently joined. Now they are unionized under the machinist union. So I have machinists in the office, and I welcomed that because it's very difficult. The work we do is very unique. So it's hard to value that. And so without bringing in our friends with the machinist union and evaluating our tasks and writing the job descriptions and then comparing them to things across the state and the country, my staff wasn't necessarily being paid accurately. And so that's a big one. We've instituted the promotional, like I said, in order to get promoted, you have to go beyond the tasks that are in front of you, but learn other things too. And it makes the office more flexible, more reliable, more valuable to the people. That's an important thing to do.
Thank you so much, folks. Tim Brophy, Will County Treasurer, who is running unopposed in the primary elections in March, but he will be having a Republican opponent in November. And let's make sure that Tim gets to retain his position. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the time.
Read Bible just joined us, and we'll be taking a quick break, and we'll come back after the break with Read Bible, folks. You're tuned into the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Muhammad Fahim, every Sunday morning. I've got a frog in my throat today, so please excuse the constant, gargling sound that you hear when I'm trying to clear my throat. But it's wonderful to have you, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break and be back on the other side of the break with Read Bible.
Have no fear with regard to renewable energy. If you own property, either residential or commercial, in Northern Illinois, you most likely qualify for massive federal, state, and utility incentives. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. You can have a no-cost, no-obligation conversation with a ComEd green light expert that can help you figure out which incentives you qualify for. Again, call 630-785-0031 for a free, no-cost, no-obligation assessment, 630-785-0031.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Muhammad Fahim.
So, folks, welcome back to the Lightning Strike. We are also in the What's on Your Mind segment, which is sponsored by Ray Hanania. So if you want to join the conversation, feel free to call us anytime. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. Let me repeat the number, 773-763-9278. You can also text us on that line. This segment is sponsored by Ray Hanania. So you can go to Ray's website, rayhanania.com, and check out his writings and what Ray is up to now. And at this point, I also want to say a quick thank you to the Arab American Chamber of Commerce. I just got a message from them yesterday that they are going to be giving me an award at their annual banquet on December 9th, folks. So that's news for our team over here. So the Arab American Chamber of Commerce just sent me a message yesterday, December 9th. So if you're going to be in the Chicagoland area, do let me know, and we can go as a team for this. So December 9th, 5 to 9 p.m., I guess, in Orland Park. And I'll share more details later. Read. Good morning. Welcome to the Lightning Strike. What's on your mind today, sir?
Good morning, Muhammad. Good morning, team. Nice to see you all. And a special good morning to all of Chicagoland. I have a couple of things on my mind that I want to kind of get off my chest too. Um,
Okay.
with the help, hopefully, of our court system, it seems to be the only branch of our government that is somewhat still intact to preserve our democracy. First thing I wanted to mention was the SNAP situation. Associate Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown, she allowed a stay of a lower court's order that told the Trump administration that not only do you have to use the emergency funds that are already set aside, about $6 billion, but you must provide full SNAP benefits and that there are other funds that you have to tap into. This has been appealed by the Trump administration and lower court telling him to use full funding sources. And it's now pending before an appellate court. So again, the Supreme Court, I should say Trump went to the Supreme Court asking for there to be a stay put on that judge's order. So the justice thought that this can be quickly resolved at the appellate level, and that the Trump administration will also be ordered to provide full funding, not just partial funding. I'm just concerned because this is seemingly an exercise in the ridiculous. There's no need for this SNAP benefits to be reduced at all. We've got bipartisan support for a standalone bill in both chambers of Congress if the bills could get on the floor, for one thing. We have judges who have ordered full funding of SNAP. And now even the Democrats have offered to vote for reopening of the government if the Republicans will allow a 1-year extension on the restoration of benefits for healthcare. And so, as you might have seen, Senator Schumer had made this offer just a couple of days ago that if the Republicans will, at least for 1 year, restore health benefits, that the Democrats will vote to reopen the government, vote for that continuing resolution to fund the government. So, but the Republicans won't even do that. And so it just, what really gets me is that Trump is holding great Gatsby parties and he's building this ballroom, this gaudy ballroom, this monument to materialism. And while we got millions of people who are undernourished, and that includes 14 million kids, elderly people, and even our military families are suffering. I just saw here where I am in the Las Vegas area at Nellis Air Force Base, we got military personnel standing in food lines at food banks now. I understand they're growing there in Chicago. I got friends who work at the food banks there. This is just totally unnecessary, folks. And it's all for giving a $4 trillion tax cut to our elites. And that just seems to be immoral, in my personal opinion. The Republicans are hurting their own constituents even, because most of the people who rely upon SNAP benefits tend to be in our more rural Republican southern states. So I think that they're trying to commit political suicide here right now. The Republicans are.
Well, I really want to bring in also Adriana and Dolly into this from a young people's perspective. Guys, what do you think? I mean, is this morally acceptable for anybody to play off children's, like 16 million children are suffering now because of lack of SNAP benefits?
I just want to say I love what you said, Reed, about how it's political suicide. And I just wrote an article about how Trump's cuts to NPR and CBS affects this very same people that he promised to protect, which are the people in very rural areas that rely on not only SNAP benefits, but the radio to get their local news and free press. And so when it comes to that, it's just ridiculous. In answering Mohammed's question, it almost seems like we're living in a dream that the president of the United States can take away the rights of so many people to just have, which is an inherent right, which is to have food, and yet still party and go and gallivant in his, ballroom. it's kind of like we're writing a story. It doesn't seem real.
Yep.
I
Yep.
have
I
to I have to
agree
agree
with
with you on that one. With the him having the whole party, we're seeing the pictures, we're seeing the caterers, the dancers, everything. It looked like Gatsby. It looked very dystopian where you, like we said, you have children starving, yet the person who's supposed to be leading us is throwing these extravagant parties and building this ballroom, which we heard that his um, press secretary Caroline Levitt said that the ballroom is his main priority, not the people
Yeah.
starving. The ballroom was his main priority. So we're seeing this happen, and it feels like we're watching Gatsby, but then also it feels like we're watching Hunger Games. That the people that are in the main city are over here in these lavish parties and costumes with the caterers and the food that they're allowed to say, hey, by the way, if you can't eat anymore, go to the bathroom, relieve yourself, and then come back to eat more and waste more food. In While people
No.
in other cities and towns are struggling. Like this is how it feels, and it's very insane. And I agree with Dolly how she said it feels like a dream.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. That's what it looks like to me. It's a thing that seems to mean to the rest of us ordinary Americans that only our political elite matter and powerful pedophiles, because we could have a standalone bill introduced in Congress right now if the House would only get back into session. And why isn't it in session? Because Mike Johnson is afraid that if they're in session, they're going to wind up winding their way to requiring the Department of Justice to release all those files on Jeffrey Epstein. So to me, you're just trying to protect pedophiles, and you're trying to also give a $4 trillion cut, protect the cut in taxes for the wealthy. And that just to me is just immoral. As
Well,
well
that's good. We talk about morality all the time over here, Reed. But when you look at these people over there, I don't think that they live in the same world that most of the people are living in. I mean, we had a president just now last week. There was a press conference in the president's office, and they were going to talk to the pharmaceutical companies, the pharma bros, into lowering prices and all of that. And one of the attendees suddenly fell sick or something. He collapsed, and for a second, the president got up, and then the president started looking straight ahead. And meanwhile, our health secretary ran out of the room. And this is the country that we are living in, folks. These people are just sucking up to the president to keep their positions in place, and this is unacceptable. Former Congresswoman Marie Newman would be joining us at 9:15 to talk about how women's rights are in free fall, and we cannot keep ignoring it. And she's got some good news after the Tuesday's elections that she is going to share with us, and why it is important that the courts and the FDA are trying to end access to the abortion medication also, and why are cabinet members being moved to military facilities. And $125 billion in 5 days, the feds have quietly flooded the banks with cash again. So what's going on? So Marie would be talking about those things at 9:15. Keep tuned over here. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Our team is Read Bible over here, Adriana Alvarez, Dali Silverberg, Dr. Sheila White, Carl Moose, and Maria Mozaffar, and Congresswoman Marie Newman. If you would like to help out, if you'd like to join our team, go to our website, tlschicago.com. That is TLS for the Lightning Strike, tlschicago.com. New website is coming up. I've been promising that, but when I went on my travels, the website project got a little bit delayed, which will be tlsradio.com coming up shortly. But reach out to us. Reach out to us. And after the show, during the week, if you want to leave us a message, feel free to, call us 312 TLS for, again, the Lightning Strike. 312 TLS 8182 is our message line. You can always leave a message or text us on that number. and we'll get back to you. So I am also looking to add a couple of people to our team. So if you are interested in politics, if you are interested in making a difference in the society that we live in, please do reach out. Again, the number is 312 TLS 8182 if you want to know more about what we're talking about over here. So it's about 8:51 and we will continue the conversation. If you would like to join the conversation, do feel free to call in. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. You can also text us at that number, 773-763-9278. The segment is sponsored by Ray Hanania of rayhanania.com. And we will be definitely wanting to get your input on this. I see that Dr. White is still on with us. Sheila, are you still on with us?
Yeah, I'm still on with you. I just wanted to say something about Adriana, what she said about the Gatsby, party. Anyone that saw that movie, it's interesting. It was a tragic ending. And so I'm
Right.
thinking, why would you modern, a party after such a tragic ending? Everyone that saw that movie knew what happened with that story. Of course, it was about the glitz and the glamour, but it was also a tragic ending. It's kind of symbolic of what's happening now, the tragedies with the SNAP benefits, the DEI, the list goes on and on. Again, I will say we are in the blues. We are experiencing the blues. So people stay tuned because the lightning strike is bringing it, because the transparency that we need is right now with our government, with everything that's going on. So keep your eyes open because there's more to come. I'll say it that way.
And let's not forget that we are in the longest shutdown of the federal government ever in the history of our country. Just yesterday, they announced that 10% of the flights are going to be canceled. If you go to the airports now, especially with Thanksgiving coming up, the whole place is a mess. Air traffic controllers are not showing up to work. The TSA people are not showing up to work. Meanwhile, our Congress people who have hardly shown up to work in the last couple of months now, they still get paid. If they come to work or not, Congress gets paid. Is that a fair way of running the country? I need your input on this, guys. If you don't show up to work, do you expect to get paid?
Mohammed, I think there should be the list posted on the Congress people that some of them are refusing to, accept the pay, but there are some that are still taking the payment. And so I think that list should be publicized so that the voters can understand what's going on and who's really just sucking up and taking advantage of this time. It's just not fair for them to not show up to work and still get paid. Most Americans, if they show up to work, they get paid. If they don't show up, they don't get paid. So I don't think it's fair for our Congress people to get a check for doing nothing. I mean, that's just not fair. That's not the American way. And I think that list of those that are receiving checks and those that are not receiving checks, that list should be posted.
I think that's
Hey, Dr. White. Dr.
Yes.
a great idea.
I want to let you know that there are a few Republicans that aren't getting it. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene said this week that she's refusing to take her paycheck until we get the government reopened.
Exactly.
So,
And that's surprising because she seems to be kind of waking up. She was the person that we thought she would never come to her senses, but of late she seems to be standing on the right side of a lot of issues. I mean, I know that she's still MAGA, but when people start to make sense, you have to kind of give them credence to say, okay, there's value here. And she's one of those people that are not taking it. And I think that list should be made public because a lot of Republicans are still taking that money.
So, Sheila, as of October, at least 19 members of Congress had formally requested, excuse me, to have their pay withheld, with more joining since then. Several Pennsylvania delegates, for example, are among at least 10 from that state alone to announce such measures as the shutdown continues. Okay. So I'm looking at some of the news items over here. Congressional pay is constitutionally protected and funded regardless of shutdowns. Can you believe that? So these refusals are symbolic or involve redirecting pay to charity or requesting delayed disbursement. but both Democrats and Republicans have joined these pledges. Notable names, and I'm going to name names over here, include Henry Quiller, Democrat of Texas, Morgan McGarvey, Democrat of Kentucky, Brett Guthrie, Republican of Kentucky, Nancy Mace, Republican of South Carolina, Tom Barrett, Republican of Michigan, Pablo Jose Hernandez Rivera, Democrat from Puerto Rico. So while specific daily totals may change, historically only about 1 in 5 members joins the refusals. Okay, so the current number likely remains in the dozens out of the 535 possible participants. So they're not going to let go of their money, Sheila. So you think that our local Congress people over here, I would love to call our local Congress people, and I'm going to probably do that tomorrow. Let's see how many of our local Congress people in Illinois have said that they would defer payments or not take payments during the shutdown. What do you guys think?
It's just a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's all you could say. This is the lightning strike, and lightning is striking every day, even though it's snowing in Chicago. Lightning is striking every day with this administration, and it can only go so far before things just kind of blow up, so to speak. But lightning is striking in Washington every single day. I'll say it that way.
Well,
Go ahead, Reed.
Well, at the end of that book, The Great Gatsby, which I was required to read when I was in high school,
okay.
at the end of the book, despite all of his gaudy parties and trying to garner friendship and get love by buying things for people, at the very end, he was dead. He was killed, and only one person showed up at his funeral. He couldn't buy love with all that money in pursuit of social standing.
So I wanted to end up this hour by going back to what I started off the program with, and this is about the Chicago machine and how it is crumbling, and it will crumble if we let it, right? This is how the machine is still moving, folks, and how people are starting to move faster. And I'm going to repeat what I started off by saying that in Chicago, Congressman Chuy Garcia waits until the last day to say he's not running. And his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, files as the only candidate in the race. Come on, that's not democracy, Reed. That's a handoff behind closed doors.
Our Democrats have also got to start listening to people and waking up, because that's not democracy. We got to get rid of this mentality that, oh, it's my turn. I'm a Democrat. I've been here for a certain period of time, so now I get to run. No, I'm for primary challenges. I'm for looking for the best talent. And Chuy, I'm very disappointed in what he did.
Yep, it's the same tired machine politics that keeps new voices out and the same insiders in. And if Chuy thinks that he did a smart thing by doing this and he's going to run for mayor next time, oh man, I'm going to be looking so closely and chewing Chuy up every single Sunday if I have to.
Maybe we can get him on the air. Maybe we can get him on the show.
Oh, I don't think that he will show up. Okay, well, but Chicago is stuck replaying the old tricks. New York is flipping the script. Zoran Mamdani wins because he built from the ground up, powered by people, not party bosses. That's what real democracy looks like, right? But even as the progressive, we celebrate that, there's a warning siren in the numbers, folks. And this is what I started off with. Andrew Cuomo, yes, this candles card as governor, still got over 600,000 votes. That's not nostalgia, that's frustration, that's voters saying, we are not inspired by what's on offer. So here's the lesson, plain and simple. The Democratic Party can't keep playing the old game. The machine may still grind, but the people are watching, organizing, and demanding better. It's 9 o'clock. We'll take a quick break for the station, for the top of the news hour and all that, and we'll come back after the show. After the break. Yeah, this is what happens Sunday mornings when I've got a frog in my throat. So if the station wants to take a break, we'll take a break, and we'll continue the conversation on our Facebook page over here.
Yes, we do have to take a break.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we're taking a break for the top of the hour, folks, and we'll be right back
Dive
after
deeper
this.
into the heart of the news and stories at WCPT 820 and across the Midwest by checking out our website, heartlandsignal.com.
It's the coverage I can count on every time.
For the latest news updates, in-depth analysis, compelling stories, comprehensive election coverage, live streams, and
I wanted
thought-provoking
to talk
opinions,
about
head to
the tariff case that was before the
heartlandsignal.com.
Supreme Court this week too, but
They
keep me
I'm away
informed
for
and
that for
updated
next
wherever
week
I
because
am.
there's a lot of
Stay
good
informed with
conversation coming up here in the
WCPT
topic.
820,
So
your go-to
So
source
let's
for
wait
where
till the
facts
break is
matter.
over.
In
yeah.
Iraq, our truck hit a roadside bomb, had about 16 surgeries on my hand so that I could regain function. And when I came home, I needed a new roof due to a storm, and my electrical was deemed unsafe. And I was about to lose homeowners insurance as well. I didn't really know where to go in order to get help. And so I applied for Operation Homefront Critical Financial Assistance Program. They've really been a blessing. Operation Homefront is the safety net. A lot of veterans, they fall through the cracks sometimes, and Operation Homefront, they catch us. It's been a blessing to us. It's a blessing to other veteran families, and it's good to know that when we come home, there are people who are there that care about us and want to see us do well and want to see us succeed, and we feel it, and we appreciate that. I would say you guys are angels behind closed doors.
Visit operationhomefront.org to learn more.
NBC News Radio, I'm Scott Carr. President Trump is offering a new idea to end the government shutdown. He's proposing that money now paid to insurance companies under the Affordable Care Act be sent directly to Americans so they could buy their own health coverage. In a social media post, Trump calls insurance companies money-sucking and that his plan would give people better health care and extra cash left over.
That's the health plan, the healthcare plan that has been coming up with for the last
reopen the government.
8 years
The
now.
number of flight cancellations keeps growing as the FAA reduces air traffic at dozens of airports. More than 1,100 flights have already been canceled today, more than 600 delays. Among those airports
Good morning,
most
Adriana.
impacted, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson,
Got another
Newark
plan.
Liberty,
How
and
about
Chicago's O'Hare
putting back that $4
airports.
trillion?
Authorities in Chicago are still looking for a
for the
man
wealthy
who's
pay their fair
suspected of
share.
firing shots at U.S. Border Patrol agents during immigration operations. Shaquille Brewster reports the Department of Homeland
money to
Security
people. I
says
gotta
it happened
print out like
Saturday on the
money.
city's southwest side.
Border Patrol was conducting immigration enforcement operations when an unknown male driving a black Jeep fired shots at agents and fled the scene. Chicago police saying they responded to the calls of shots fired, also writing there are no reports of anyone struck by gunfire.
Though a responding police officer was hit by another vehicle while conducting traffic control and suffered minor injuries. Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaz in the United States
like
for
a
an
red
official
flag
visit with
operation day with
President
that
Trump
border
at the White
thing.
House
I mean,
tomorrow. It's
I
the first
seriously
visit by
doubt
a
it
Syrian
also.
president since
Yeah.
the country's independence in
I mean,
1946.
how can you have someone driving
Al-Sharaa
a
once
Jeep
led
just
an
come and
offshoot of
shoot and no one
Al-Qaeda,
knows
but
who
broke
it
from
is?
that group a decade ago and helped rebels last year depose longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad after years of civil war. He was removed from a U.S. sanctions list Friday, and Washington hopes to recruit him to join a coalition against the terror group ISIS. Scott Carr, NBC News Radio.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter. Out Chicago.
I'm saying it again. Equal rights for others does not.
All right, we have you guys on in 20 seconds.
Sounds good.
People are insecure. It's horrible.
But if you can hear my voice and you voted for this, just think about how does gay marriage affect your life? It does not make any sense. It does not make any sense.
Catch Out Chicago every Sunday, 11 to 1 on WCPT 820.
The following program, The Lightning Strike, is sponsored by Mohammed Fahim, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of Heartland Signal, LLC, or its management.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Fahim.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk radio station. You can join the conversation on our call-in line, which is sponsored by Ray Hanania. It's called What's on Your Mind? The number to call in is 773-763-9278. Today, we've been discussing about the machine politics in Chicago and how things have to change for the Democratic Party to retain their leadership in the country. These things cannot continue to go on. And at 9:06, we got Adriana to coming back in to talk about Trump's interview on 60 Minutes and what it says about Trump and our country. It's 9:06. Adriana, good morning. Welcome to the
Good
Lightning Strike.
morning. So
Okay.
I watched the 60-minute interview and I watched the full-length one. Now, to an important note with that is that 60 Minutes aired one that was only 30 minutes long and then posted the full-length one on their YouTube page. Now, the 30-minute one did not make Trump look good, and the 60-minute one did not make him look any better. Now, before we even get started on that, the overall interview, Trump mentioned Biden 32 times and blamed him for multiple things. He went to go say that groceries went up under Biden, eggs went up under Biden, all problems under Biden, border, all problems under Biden. They go to say, and I have like notes here of the timeline of things, and I was just like, okay, we gotta talk about that, talk about that, talk about that. One of the main things that they started off with is that the nuclear weapons testing, and he said that all other countries are testing, so I don't want to be the only one not testing weapons. He goes to say that China's China's testing, Russia's testing, all these other countries are testing. And the reporter calls him out and say, well, that's very newsworthy things. Don't you think that we should be talking about them? He goes to say Russia's testing, China's testing, and they're not talking about it. America's very open, so we're going to talk about it. If America's so open, then he would talk about releasing the Epstein files, but we're not going to get too much into that part. So they asked if has Russia made any threats with the testing, but we haven't gotten any clear response of that. We only got into the only response that was made from that is that Trump has solved 8 wars and he had to gloat about that and that we are respected again as a country. But I beg to differ when other countries are seeing what's happening with us, and I'm pretty sure that they're either very concerned that they're laughing at us because with the protests and the inflatable costumes, I mean, I don't think I would respect my country either if I saw that. And then with all this talk about the wars, he said that it was Joe Biden's war with Putin, not Trump's, that he inherited that war, and that the election was rigged and stolen. And then after that, Trump treated the reporter like a child, pulling out the paper that showed the 8 wars with his face on them, saying the ones that he solved. And he pulled it out saying, yes, this war, I solved it. This war, I solved it. Like a child. And I was like, what are you doing? So then the reporter asked if we are going to war with Venezuela because we keep bombing boats on like their area. And he said that he doubts it, but they have been treating us very badly. That's not a clear answer. If anything, that makes it seem like we are going to war with them. And continued to then say that, again, Joe Biden, the worst president with the open borders, and that all of these countries emptied their prisons and insane asylums into our country. And that by bombing these boats, we're stopping the narcotics and we're stopping the presidents over there. But there hasn't been any real proof that these boats have been carrying narcotics. Then goes to say again that Biden was the worst president and that Trump took care of inflation and inflation is lower than it was last year. Now, I did a quick Google search. That is probably the only correct thing that he has said, that inflation last year was at 3% and now it's at 2%. But just because of that change in the number does not mean that everything is going to be much cheaper, that the dollar value is going to have any impact because everything is still very, very expensive. So I think that's why people aren't believing him when they're like, yes, inflation is down, when people are still living paycheck to paycheck. And that he goes on to say that the weaponization of law enforcement was because of Biden. And after that, the reporter changes topics and says that he's had success on immigration. Trump then goes to say, no, I've had big success on immigration because we can't just say that he's been successful on something. We have to say that he's very successful on something. We have to one up
bigly
everything.
successful.
Yes. So
Okay.
then there's a big airstrike carrier that's near the area between where the US is and then where Venezuela is. There's kind of an airstrike in the middle of that. And they said, why is it over there if we're not going to war? And he said, well, it has to go somewhere. It's big enough. It has to go somewhere. So throughout this interview, he keeps cutting her off, keeps trying to interrupt her. So, and then he says that Washington, D.C. was the crime capital of the world before Trump. I think there's a lot of other different places that have bigger crime than Washington, D.C., but okay. So him going to different countries, he was saying that they didn't treat Biden the way, they didn't treat him disrespectful, that he went to all these different countries, that he was a man that should have never been president, mentioned the rigged election again, and that the country went to hell because of Biden, and that we were a dead country a year ago. So keeps saying all these things, and that the ceasefire, he brought up that and that it was the reporter said that it was a fragile ceasefire. And he's like, no, I don't think so. And they're like, well, Hamas isn't disarming. He said, well, I can get them to disarm if I want to. If you can, then do it. I don't understand that point that he was trying to make there, and that Iran wants to make a deal, but they may not say it. He also called out that CNN was a fake news source, that China has respect for us. Then he mentioned Obama as well, bringing into this interview. If Biden wasn't enough, he had to bring in Obama. He said that Obama was a terrible president. Nobody wants to talk about it because they want to be politically correct. Again, that Biden was a terrible president as well. And then as they were trying to talk about foreign policy, he's like, no, I'm talking about all policy, because he had to kind of pivot on that. And that they mentioned that we are headed into the longest shutdown. Automatically, he says, Democrats' fault. Wouldn't even let the reporter finish, just automatically blamed it on the Democrats. And that we keep voting that the Democrats are crazy leftist lunatics. And if there was something, they asked if there's something that he can do. He said, I can't give trillions and a half dollars to immigrants. I can continue to run a great country with the best economy we've ever had. Continues to say that Obamacare is a terrible healthcare plan. And they asked him, well, okay, well, do you have a healthcare plan? And that was before we heard that he wants to give the money back to people instead of the insurance policies. His original plan was let the country open and then we'll fix it, that there is no healthcare plan and all of those different things. But at this point, it feels like if you go to a car salesman and say, hey, sign all the papers before you can even look at the car, test drive the car. I want you to buy it first. Then you can see what you're dealing with. So then continues to say how the ACAs is too expensive, lousy healthcare, and it'll increase if we don't extend subsidies. Then called Obama Barack Hussein Obama. And he just continues on and on and on, and how he pardoned somebody and he doesn't even know who he is. It was the cryptocurrency. Doesn't even know who he is, yet he blamed Biden for that. Continues to say that the election was rigged. Jasmine Crockett is a low IQ person. AOC is a crazy person, and Kamala couldn't speak properly. And that Biden is the reason that we are living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, goodness.
So,
goodness.
That is the 60-minute interview recap of Donald Trump.
Okay. Thank you, Adriana.
Well, was that interview conducted by Leslie Stahl? I didn't get to see it, but I
do not know the woman's name who conducted the interview.
Is it Nora O'Donnell? Nora O'Donnell.
Nora O'Donnell. Okay. Murray's on top of everything on these things. So you're tuned in to the Lightning Strike. I'm Mohammed Fahim. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. And 9:14 is when former Congresswoman, author, all-around great person, Murray Newman joins us. Murray, good morning.
Good morning. Lots going on as it is every week now. I am taking a little bit of a detour from kind of the smash and grab politics we have going on, because there's been an underlying thing that we're not really absorbing is a risk. So welcome to Ignore at Your Own Risk. Good to see everybody this morning. And this week, I felt like it was really important to talk about women's rights. We're fighting every fight on every front, right? And but we're continue to ignore some things, and I think people have really forgotten about women's rights, and it's really upsetting to me. Let's start with abortion bans. As we know, something like 20 states have developed some level of an abortion ban in the state. They're also going after the very safe and effective and comfortable abortion pill, which is known as mifepristone. And so I thought it was a good time to recap where we're at and talk a little bit about the future. So you may all know over the past 8 years or so, women's rights and reproductive freedoms just have faced setback after setback. And then it culminated in 22. The most notable turning point was when the Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization decision before the Supreme Court, they actually overturned Roe v. Wade, which is a standing and a ruling and a precedent, not a law. So they overturned the ruling of 1973. And that was, Roe v. Wade was in place for 50 years, and it was that the constitutional right to an abortion was protected by this ruling. Dobbs dismantled that. And then, Trumpers came in 2023, 24 and said, well, we'll just leave it to the states. So what happens when you leave it to the states is that very quickly you get 15 to 20 bills that abolish abortions and the access to care in 20 states. That's what happened effectively. And the impact has been really profound. We see it every day in the news, women bleeding out in their homes and in their hospitals because these abortion providers are not allowed to provide care, even when it is regardless of the type of pregnancy it is, but sometimes it is a life or death matter and they're bleeding out and dying on floors. It's in some states, it's very precarious because these doctors will actually get charged with a felony, so understandably. But I do want to make one note here is that the Hippocratic oath that every doctor takes flies in the face of all of these bills that tell doctors that in effect they cannot provide care. At the heart of the Hippocratic oath is that you must provide care and do no harm, right? So to that point, I just want to make a note on mifepristone that this pill known as mifepristone is a safe and a comfortable care. It's as safe as Tylenol, excuse me. Although I hate to use the analogy Tylenol because RFK seems to think otherwise. So, but it is a very safe pill. The FDA now is trying to unapprove it. So it was approved decades ago as a safe and secure method of abortion care. About 50% of women seeking abortion care actually do in fact use a pill. And now they're trying to take it away. So Mohammed, if you wouldn't mind pulling up those two clips, my friend, who is the president of Reproductive Freedom for All, it was formerly known as NARAL, Minnie Timaraju. Mohammed's going to go ahead and pull up a couple clips. I chatted with her on my Substack podcast this week about some of these issues around the FDA and then abortion care and how we got to where we are overall.
Let me see if I can share the screen, Marie. Please keep on talking.
Okay, sounds great. So Minnie Timaraju, brilliant president of Reproductive Freedom for All, she's been on the forefront of running this coalition of 9 women's groups, which include the ACLU, Southern Poverty Law, and many groups.
Now there's another case,
Here
pretty
she
much
is.
the same case, working its way.
Go ahead, Marie. I'm still trying to bring
Sounds
her.
good. In any way, and you'll hear Minnie talk about this, that in fact, this group called Abortion Access Now is a coalition that is bringing the fight to not just the courts, but to hearts and minds everywhere. Because come to find out, while 70% of the nation approves of a woman's right to choose, a full 80 or 90% believe that, in fact, it should be available in all forms, meaning that not just in a pill, but also in care clinics.
Let me play this for you.
Okay, sounds good. Listen to Minnie here.
So now there's another case, pretty much the same case, working its way back up through the courts, but this time with, Republican state AGs in states with abortion bans saying this medication harms all the things, like it's harming our citizens, it's being brought into our states illegally, and it's not safe. This is important because Josh Hawley's also introduced a study by an anti-abortion activist group that says medication abortion is not safe. Here are all the things we found about medication abortion. Here's the studies. Here's the data. So you've got the same study that is being used in litigation, being used by Josh Hawley in the Senate to push, protection, to push legislation, and that Martin Makary, the FDA commissioner, is using to say he will do a comprehensive review of medication abortions safety. Yeah. So this is all, and you, as a former member of Congress, you've seen this all before, right? It's a wholesale attack. And what it does is it provides legitimacy for junk claims and junk attacks. And they're doing it again. Remember how I said abortion rates are not going down in this country, despite 21 states directly impeding access because of medication abortion. So this is the new frontier.
So folks.
Thank you for playing that. So 2 important points that Minnie made there. One is that this junk science that Josh Hawley and you're playing the second one?
Go ahead, Maria. I'm lining up the other one.
So so 2 points Minnie made there is that in the courts, Senator Josh Hawley and several others have sponsored some junk science that disproves the safety of mifepristone. It's a highly safe drug used for 20 years, no deaths, on and on and on. The FDA is working with the courts to try to disprove it with some brand new study that all of a sudden it's not safe, and it's absolutely not true. In fact, the 2 primary physicians that are running this ongoing study have been debunked, and all but their license has been taken away. So it's all ridiculous. But Minnie makes the point here is that this is how they do it. They try to get rid of the pill through the FDA process and through the courts. And so it's not good news. We are in the midst of this fight right now. I like to leave us with some good news on this topic, is that the good news is that we had 2 women governors beat out men on several fronts in the last race on Tuesday. Abigail Spanberger won in Virginia. Mikey Sherrill won in New Jersey. And other very notable woman is now a lieutenant governor. She is the first female Muslim woman to hold a statewide office. So that takes
my cousin Marie.
Oh, it is. Oh my gosh. Well, she seems amazing. And I'm not surprised she's related to you, because she seems amazing. So, so I do think there's good news on the horizon. The reason this is good is that we should all feel a little safer when women are making executive decisions and in power, because those nations that are run by women tend to be safer, don't go to war as much, and their economies are better. So let's just be honest about that. So we had a good night on Tuesday night. Let's keep that power going. Couple of notes on women's issues that, the DEI initiatives that have just been absolutely canceled and hacked at. It is horrifying to see what's happening to leadership. So a study from 2022, a McKinsey report, found that when we have strong DEI initiatives, it's 25% more likely to have women in executive positions. Without continued emphasis on DEI, the pipeline for women in advancing into senior roles stagnates dramatically. Currently, women hold only 28% of C-suite positions in the US, and that is just in 10 months, folks, just in 10 months, that has gone down by 4%. So imagine if we compound that into a full year, and then on and on and on. So this is the exact opposite way to go. What else is being ignored? Just a couple of quick things before we move on to the next section. What else is being ignored this week? Little interesting financial maneuver happened this week that we should keep our eye on, and there may be some risk attached to it. So money's being dumped into the banks by the Fed. The Federal Reserve this week quietly pumped about $125 million into the U.S. banking system over about 5 days. That's a lot of money in a very short amount of time. So this is I think it is one of the largest liquidity events moves since the 2022 COVID crisis, which we did do similar things. There's no crisis right now, though. This is, I just want to make the point here. The cash flood comes as the bank reserves hit about 2.8 trillion, the lowest in 4 years. So usually when you see those markers, there's liquidity problems that the Treasury usually does try to help. But that's my point, is that there's some liquidity problems. So this recession that Trump thinks isn't going to happen is very likely to happen. In fact, we saw that this week. But to not report on this, typically a president would report, hey, we're trying to solve liquidity issues, and be out there about it. The Trump administration hides all this stuff. And that's really my point here, is that, hey, if you're going to make a big move like that, the American people should know. Final thing we should not be ignoring at our own risk is interesting, another move of the people type. DHS Secretary Noem and Defense Secretary Hegseth and Stephen Miller, who is the immigration, I don't even know what to call him, monster, immigration. I don't know what we call him. Anyway, in the administration. They all are getting a lot of death threats, which is not good, and we should always solve things peacefully. But they now have been moved on to military bases temporarily because they feel like they're being quit. My real point here is that this is just more militarization. Have you noticed whenever there's a problem, instead of solving it like other best practice administrations, they always go to the military? Like it's just their move. So I think we're just going to see more of this, that the military becomes a part of everything. And we should watch that. Otherwise, we may be at risk. With all that, visit my Substack from this week. I touch on the women's rights issues and see if anything's helpful there. My interview with Minya Timuraju, the president of Reproductive Freedom for All, is on there too.
Want me to play the second clip also?
Sure, you can go ahead if you have that teed up.
All right, let me just bring it up, and there you go.
Trump and his cronies, RFK Jr., Marty McCary at the FDA, Pam Bondi, have never had any intention of leaving this to the states, and are trying to find ways to reverse authorization of medication abortion, limit the restriction, create more restrictions on how you can access medication abortion, like removing the ability to access it by mail, right? Which would have devastating consequences, because over 50% of all abortions in this country are done by medication abortion in states like the one you're in right now. Your governor and your state's done incredible work to protect medication abortion and providers. So this is where we're at. We're in this state by state fight. We're in a segregated society. I live in Texas. I don't have these rights, but I live in Maryland. I do have these rights. And it's become, more than a culture war, which is what folks have called. It was never a culture war, but it's clearly more than that now. Yeah. You can't debate it. It's about our fundamental right to exist.
Okay, so there you go, folks. And Maria is having some connection issues, and she is unable to join us this morning. So if you don't mind continuing some of the conversations that we started off with, we'd love to have you, if you got the time.
Sure, yeah.
To discuss some of the things. I mean, I started off by talking about the machine politics in Chicago, especially Chuy Garcia, waiting till the last day to declare that he's not going to run again for Congress. And then his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, steps in with her petitions ready, not giving a chance to anyone else in that district to even step up and challenge. Yeah. This is, I strongly feel that this is so wrong on so many aspects.
Yeah.
Just think about it. I mean, don't you think there's other people qualified to run in the 2nd Congressional District except for Patty Garcia? And Chuy Garcia, who do you think Chuy is fooling with this move of his? And if he wants to run again for another office in the Chicagoland area, I'm going to be all over him, chewing Chuy's Chuy off.
Well, let's start with the reality. So Chuy did have 3 significant family issues that were very serious, that a couple of which bubbled up faster than he thought they did, and he wasn't on top of them. And so my heart goes out to the Garcia family for that reason. And he made a good family choice. So as we all know in the world, 2 things can be true at once. He made a good family choice, and making the choice to step down probably makes sense for his family, and we wish him well. It also is true that he waited to make the decision, perhaps too long, perhaps strategically, who knows? There are some bad actors that may have gotten into that race, and Chewy thought, oh, maybe we'll prevent that. But the fact remains is that is undemocratic, right? Is that two things can be true at once. You can be doing the right thing for his family and not doing the right thing for democracy in the state of Illinois. So for me, I wish he had thought about this sooner, because some of these issues could have been dealt with sooner, and that it would have been opened up to a full primary. So I am supportive both ways, in that, like, I support my friend Chuy Garcia. I want his family to be well and all those things. But if someone else comes in, if there's someone that runs as an independent, we should applaud that. And if they're a good candidate and you feel aligned with them, you should vote for them. So I do think we're going to see an independent candidate. I know there's 3 or 4 people looking at it right now.
Oh, that would be awesome, but the system makes it so difficult for an independent.
Yeah, you have to get like 3 times as many signatures. It's
15,000 or something signatures compared to 500 or something, or 800, whatever, for a congressional spot, and that is something, folks, that we have to address at the party level. The party leadership has to step up, and we have seen it time and again that the party leadership is kind of letting go of their responsibilities and hoping that things will work themselves out. People are watching. This is the era of social media now. You cannot control people talking about things. And I give the perfect example of Mamdani over there in New York now. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and all of those people, what were they waiting for? Till the last minute, and then Cuomo comes up as an independent. Who's trying to fool who over here?
Right.
And Marie, my main concern again was that Cuomo got over 600,000 votes. So the Democratic Party leadership cannot fly on this thing that, oh, everything is going to be great in the midterms. People are sick and tired of the Republicans. They're going to vote for us. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. There are boogeymans in the Democratic Party that leadership and the old guard and the establishment have used for decades. And one of them is the Palestine-Israel issue. The reality is that, and we all know that on this call, is that, like 70% of the nation wants Palestine to be free, self-determined, all of those things, and Israel to be free and safe too. And then we want them to stop fighting. But that we cannot ever support anymore Palestine being indentured servants. Like, no one wants that. Like, some of my most conservative Republican friends don't want Palestine to continue to endure this life, right? So we are where we are. The Democratic old guard gets, as you know, this is just an AIPAC Democratic majority for Israel 314 science money issue, is that AIPAC has been clear that, look, we have 120 million this cycle, and you're not going to get any of it. Now, we're seeing huge cracks in that allegiance. When Seth Moulton, who is a very conservative Democrat, says, I'm not taking AIPAC or pro-Israel money at all anymore, that is a big strike. And I think now something like 30 members of the Democratic caucus has now said, no, I'm not taking it anymore. So that is, by the way, that's 3 times as many when I was in office just 3 years ago. So we've made good progress. But these old boogeymans that the Democratic old guard hauls out, and the socialism thing and the blah, 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 it's not. So first of all, it's not socialism. It is revised capitalism. Everybody gets so worried about a term, it's so at the end of the day, I think Schumer will regret this. I don't know as though that a year from now, or a year and a quarter from now, after they take the vote in January 27, I am not sure Chuck Schumer will be the majority leader. I don't, or the Senate leader, sorry. And I'm not 100% positive that Hakeem will be the Speaker of the House. Here's why, is that 40 leading candidates in 40 different races were asked by Axios if, in fact, they would vote for Hakeem, and about 95% of them said no. Bad. So, I think that Hakeem has made some big strides recently, and let's give him credit for that. Is that look, he's towing the line and holding the line down, and keeping our leverage so that we can get healthcare back. So let's applaud him for the good things, and let's push him on the other things. But I do think there's a decent probably situation where he may not be in leadership.
Well, I hope that these people are getting the message. Just listening to social media, just listening to people like us over here talking about these things. Reed, you want to jump in on this? Any thoughts on your mind on this?
Well, I think the Democrats heard the call about affordability that has been talked about for the last few years. And I think that Democrats oftentimes are saying, well, yeah, it's not as bad as you think it is, because this is not as expensive for elite people, or that's not as expensive. Whereas you got people that are trying to buy bread and butter and eggs, and they're seeing the prices are going up. So don't, tinkle on them and tell them it's raining. They want somebody talking practical things about affordability. They don't want to talk about foreign issues, that sort of thing. Although we should be talking about things like the Gaza situation, Ukraine. But most Americans, let's face it, they have to live their day-to-day lives raising a family, and they want bread and butter issues talked about, and we need to talk about the bread and butter issues. And I think that the Republicans are real good at throwing out the word socialism, a Cold War term that they were hoping immediately will get translated into our minds of communism. Well, no, that's not what we're talking about. I think it's more like Marie was saying. Socialism is more, at least for my thinking, a reform of capitalism. Laissez-faire or crony capitalism isn't working for America. The young people know that. You got to have some major modifications to capitalism, and we already have that. If you go to a public library, a public school, you have fire protection, whatever, Social Security, Medicare, those are all socialistic programs. So why are some people so afraid when you use the word socialism?
It is. I mean, the premise of that started so that we could all do something for the social good, right? And so all of those things, whether it's your fire department, your library, any of your civic services, your garbage, all of that, like a government takes care of that. So by definition, it's socialist, right? So the fact that we want to revise capitalism so that it is better for the social good, what this comes down to is that we need to give these huge corporations guardrails and parameters. And whether you call it regulation or teaching them how to operate like human beings, like whatever it is you want to call it, we have to give them guardrails. And under the Trump administration and many Republican administrations, the guardrails are taken away so that they, start gouging us like crazy, and no one can live. The average age to own a home right now is 40. Yeah. 17 years ago, it was 27 and a half. That is ridiculous that, my kids aren't going to be able to afford a home for 15 years.
Yeah, and what does that tell us about what is happening in the country right now? Yeah. There are people, Marie, who don't really give a hoot about the public at large. Okay, yeah. They couldn't care less. They couldn't care less. And then we have AIPAC. Obviously, AIPAC is now in the crosshairs for quite a few people, but it's not just AIPAC. J Street is out there. So some of these Congress people, they're saying, oh, we are not going to take AIPAC because now AIPAC has become radioactive. Yeah. They are not afraid of saying that, oh, yeah, but you know what, J Street, yeah, we will take their help.
Yeah, and let's be fair about J Street. So J Street is better. They recognized over time that it was a genocide. They also indicated that that it was an occupation. 2 years ago, they started using the word occupation. It's been an occupation for 50 years, but nevertheless, it took them a while, but they got there. So while they are better, there are things about J Street that, you kind of can't have it both ways. And I think that sometimes they like having it both ways, but I wouldn't necessarily, if there was a candidate that was really amazing on economic equity, healthcare equity, and recognized the genocide and wanted Palestine to be free, and happened to get J Street money, I would still consider them. Whereas if they took AIPAC, Democratic Majority for Israel, 314 Science, or any of those other evil ones, no, that's just a straight no.
Okay. Go ahead, Reed.
I just, again, I want to emphasize that when we talk about AIPAC and how it's buying our congresspeople, because we have legalized bribery in our campaign financing system now.
100.
It's but I want to emphasize that we are not saying something that's anti-Jewish. Our Jewish brothers and sisters are human beings. They're all over the world. They're not just in Israel. Half of them don't agree with what Netanyahu's doing either.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Israeli government. We're not talking about Jewish people in total. So
it never hurts to say that enough, because people do conflate the two things. And so my husband is Jewish, and I will say I absolutely love it when people call me an anti-Semite when in fact I'm criticizing the Israeli government. And then my husband will look at me like, I didn't know you were an anti-Semite. That's weird. After 32 years. That's,
But Marie, one of the things that I've brought this up in the past also, in the last couple of years that we've been doing the show now, that how do you define a Semite? The Semites are the people that
in the region. It's from the region.
In the region. The Semites are not Netanyahu and his gang who came over from Poland and Russia and are trying to be, project themselves as Semites. But
Polish.
Yeah, but
well, and that's in this country we do that often, though, right? Like we lump people in buckets in a very specific way. We'll say anybody that is from let's say South Asian areas, maybe they're all Muslim, when in fact, 40% of the nation is Hindu. You know that number better than I do. So we tend to lump people, and we conflate ethnicity and nationality and religion in one bucket. And just because you're Jewish doesn't mean you're a specific ethnicity. You could be any ethnicity, because anybody can be Jewish, anybody can be Protestant, anybody can be Hindu, right?
A lot of people don't know, Marie, that there are a number of Jewish people in India also.
Yeah, I've read that too.
Okay, and in New York for the Mamdani election now, he received major Jewish endorsements like Bend the Arc, like Jewish Action. That's the nation's largest domestic progressive Jewish advocacy.
They were a big supporter of mine. They were terrific organization.
Jewish Vote co-founder Raphael Shimonov also celebrated Mamdani's victory as a moment for progressive Jewish organizing and coalition politics. That the Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, JFREJ, and JVP, individuals active in these New York-based left-wing Jewish organizations, contributed to campaign organizing. So it's when we say anti-Israel, it does not mean anti-Jewish. It means anti-Zionist. And a lot of Jews are coming out openly and saying, hey, Zionism does not represent us as Jews. So even a CNN poll had suggested that about a third of the Jewish voters supported Mamdani, despite significant efforts by all of these other people, including Ackman and others, who threw in like millions of dollars into supporting Cuomo to project Mamdani as anti-Zionist and as anti-Jewish and all of that. People are seeing through this now. People are seeing through this, and that is a lesson that we.
Good news, bad news for MAGA. Hilariously, more conservative Republican voters voted for Mamdani than any time in its history. So the history of voting in New York, more conservatives voted for Mamdani. You know why? It's what happened with Bernie voters, is that there were a lot of conservative men that felt like the economy wasn't going their way, that heard what Bernie was saying and saying that it's rigged and I'll help you. It's the same thing. It's like, look, hey, I've got some ideas that could work. And are all of Mamdani's ideas going to work? Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
Yeah, but why not give him a chance and let him seed and do some pilots? And I'd love to see him do some pilots, like whether it is the grocery store idea or the free bus idea, like certain populations, and, back to providing civic service. There are probably 15 nations that provide free transportation and free education. And they are not a socialist nation, they're a democracy, right?
Hey,
So
Marie,
all of it is
speaking of that, including Israel, Israel is providing free education and free healthcare to its residents
yeah.
from our money over there. So are they socialist?
Yeah, right. So it is all it's a little bit funny. We pick and choose and cherry pick. So does the Democratic Party, by the way. We pick and choose and cherry pick too. But
Yep.
the reality is that I think Mamdani has a real shot at trying some new things, and then that helps. There's a lot of really great programs that started out with tiny programs by groundbreakers, right? So we would not have Medicare, Social Security, or welfare had FDR not forced the issue over time. He did some pilots and then he blew it up nationally. And here we are. We're still the wealthiest nation on the planet. And we used to be the best in healthcare. Now we're 15.
Yeah,
And that's our own fault.
40-hour work week.
Yeah, the unions are responsible for
Okay,
that. But
so
yeah, the unions are responsible for all the work week stuff and all that. Yeah.
Carl Moose is actually stuck at an airport now, so he's
Oh, no.
going to be joining us. He just texted me that he's stuck, his flight is delayed. But Dolly, it's your turn. What have you got on your mind?
Hi, everybody. Hello, Dolly. Yes. I'm kind of switching gears a little bit. I'm talking about Trump and obviously his renovations of the East Wing of the White House, his creation of the ballroom and Arc de Trump. But more specifically, I'm talking about his firing of I think maybe it's like six members of the Federal Arts Board that is in charge of reviewing the White House ballroom and Arc de Trump. And I think he fired 6 members. I feel it's in retaliation to Biden firing Trump's first pick, Justin Trudeau. But the reason that they're preparing to appoint a new slate of members to the commission is because they want to appoint people who are more aligned with President Trump's America's First policies. And this is NPR's words as well. But the commissioners are responsible for reviewing designs for federal buildings, monuments, public art projects in Washington, D.C. So they're like the big guns in charge of architecture, memorials, specifically like one more that we all know in Washington, D.C., the Maya Lin's Vietnam Memorial. And actually, interestingly enough, right in our home city, Obama's Presidential Center in Chicago. So it kind of goes back to what Marie has been saying over and over again about, I know she's not here right now, but suppressing dissent and controlling information and attacking education. Trump and firing 6 members of the Federal Arts Board is another way that he is embedding into our lives by controlling what gets built and created in our cities. And we said this before, political people in power, they use different methods to silence those who disagree with them. And this is one of those methods. Controlling information and attacking education. When Trump gets to decide who controls our fine arts and humanities boards, he's inherently telling us that he's in charge of what we want to learn and what we want to know and how we want to express ourselves. And then my last point, I suppose, would be going back to white nationalism and conservative nationalism. So Trump's America's First policies, as we know, derive from like racist and xenophobic hate speech. And it seems eerily similar to Project 2025 plans. And he not only wants to control the free press, again, as we talked about, but wants to control what we see and where we go. He wants to add conservative Republican ideals. And in a way, he wants to add them to our skylines and make us visit them. Also, interestingly enough, which with the help from Mohammed, you gave me this information, a number of the subcontractors that have been working on it are being cussed out, for lack of a better term, and forced to take down their websites. The subcontractors who are working on the East Wing, creating the ballroom, the Arc de Trump, quote unquote, they're forced to take down their websites because of public backlash. So ACECO, which is the engineering construction company or the White House's demolition contractor, and McCreary Architects, they're definitely being pressured by outside factors. And they've taken down their Instagrams too after being, I guess, cyberbullied. ACECO accused President Trump of not paying them their proper balances based off their services in the project, and Yelp temporarily blocked reviews for ACECO due to massive amounts of public hate and commentary and scrutiny related to the demolition project. So there's a lot of stuff going on in regards to these new White House project plans. But I think the most important thing is remembering how what this looks like, how this is just one factor in a string of Trump's plan to change the way we see our country and the way we respect our values. So, Mohammed.
Okay. Yep. Dolly, thank you so much for that. And again, these people are not realizing that people are watching. It is no longer that you control ABC, CBS, and a few of the, legacy radio stations, and nobody gets to hear about what you are doing. That's not what is happening in the world today. With social media, everyone knows what is happening, and people are going to react to this. So that is something that we have to understand, folks. Our leadership has to step up and understand the new paradigm that we are living in. They cannot continue to carry on in the same old fashion that they were doing before, and then expect to come in every 2 years or 4 years and have us elect the same old gang to carry on the same old policies that they have been doing. Read your take on this.
Well, when it comes to this White House business, I'm thinking that I'm with the majority of Americans and that we object to this big ballroom replacing our East Wing of the White House, specifically because we do hold the White House as the executive mansion, the residence of our head of state, and a symbol of our democracy, and a great big 900,000 square foot golden trimmed palace at the east end of our White House does not really fit in well with our image of America as being a place that we don't have an aristocracy, we don't recognize royal titles, we like the ordinary average citizen. And this guy in the White House doesn't seem to get it. I understand he even wants to turn the Kennedy Center, change the name to the Trump Center or the Trumper Center for Performing Arts. This guy has just gone bonkers. He wants to make a great big arch like they have at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. What is wrong with this guy? He doesn't seem to get it that we are a democracy. So I don't want him setting the standards for our artistic tastes, our architectural designs in this country, because frankly, I don't want to look around and see gold everywhere. It's gaudy.
Well, let's also not forget that we don't have a king in this country, and the No Kings protest was so massive. 7 million Americans all over the country and even internationally in other parts of the world came out and said, no, we don't have kings in this country. You cannot do what you want, Mr. Trump. And now I was just reading this morning that the courts are finally putting up a stiff spine and saying that Trump has no authority for the tariffs that he's been bandying around all this past few months, that tariff is a tax and only Congress has the authority to impose taxes on American people and American goods.
What you're saying, Mohammed, is exactly what I want to talk about next week. You're stealing my lightning.
Stealing my thunder.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I try to be on top of everything that is happening in the country, Reed, because I love this country. Okay.
Absolutely. And the greatest title in this country is that of citizen. That's the highest title here.
Absolutely. And I keep on saying this, folks, again and again, that when you travel out of this country and you whip out that blue passport, it says citizen of the United States of America. It does not say whether you are a Republican or a Democrat or a whatever crat. It just says citizen of the United States of America. And we have to keep that in mind. It does not matter where you come from. When you are here and you have legally established residence over here, you are an American, pure and simple. And for someone just to look at me and say that, hey, as a brown guy, you cannot be an American, that is not just disrespectful. It just goes to show the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I've been telling you guys about the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So for all the listeners out there, just go ahead and Google this term, Dunning-Kruger effect. And I'll just let you know in one sentence what it means is when someone are too stupid to know that they are stupid. Okay. So there are a lot of people, especially in so-called leadership positions in our country, who are suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect. And we've got to keep on talking about this. I see Adriana just shaking her head on this. So you know a few of them, Adriana? Okay.
No, I've heard a little bit about it, but not too. I haven't dove too much into the research of it.
Okay.
But it's something to be distinguished from just being ignorant, because you can fix ignorance. You can fill up.
Oh, I'm
that
very
fucking mouth.
familiar. Oh yeah.
Okay. So Reed, you want to say that you can fix ignorance, but you can't fix stupid?
Can't fix stupid. No. If so.
Okay. Nali is having a fun time with this now. Nali, looks like you know a few people who are in that
Oh
that
yeah.
category now. Okay.
And they don't listen to the show.
Unfortunately, we have some of our fellow citizens who are got that Dunning effect going, and they might go out and vote. So we who have knowledge or intelligence, or hopefully both, can get out to the polls next year and overcome them and vote.
Okay, so I want to finish off today's program, folks, with a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be talking about next week. Dali, do you think you're going to have our guest on next week? Is he coming on?
He hasn't responded to the email accepting the request yet, so I'm gonna wait a little bit. But I did email him for the 16th. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the 16th, correct?
And I have got Joe Van Dyne, who's the speaker of the Will County Board, coming on. There is lots of things happening in Will County that I want to focus on because I live in Will County. The Republicans are going nuts. They are just they don't understand basic economics. Okay, and they're giving a very hard time to the Will County Board. The Finance Committee is meeting actually this Wednesday. There's going to be a $9 million hole in the budget. The Republicans are not willing to discuss about it, to come and have a sit down on that. So we're going to have the Will County Speaker actually come on the air next week and talk to us about what is happening in the county. And for people who are listening in other counties, if you would like to come on in as a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to us through the website, tlschicago.com. We got about 60 seconds to finish off the broadcast today. And we come every Sunday morning, folks, from 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. It's the lightning strike, and we want to talk about responsibility of our elected officials, and we want to make sure that people understand that democracy is not a sit out sport. It is the participant sport. You have got sorry, I hit mute. But if you're not running for office, make sure that you hold the people who are running for office accountable for their ideas, because at the end of the day, it is our country. We have got to take it back. We cannot let the oligarchs and the $1 trillion compensation. Can you imagine that, Reed?
That shouldn't even be allowed. We have
Okay.
a tax code that prohibits the existence of trillionaires.
Absolutely. So on that note, folks, Elon Musk, thank you. If you're listening to us, if you get to hear this, make sure that you take a pay cut next time we come on the air. On that note, thank you so much again. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, Reed. Thank you, Marie, for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Sheila White, for bringing us great guests. And Maria Muzaffar could not join us. She was having some connection issues today. We'll see you all next week, folks. Thank you all for listening. And enjoy the weather today. The snow stopped in Chicago, so there's no more snow coming down. Hopefully, we'll have better weather the rest of the week over here. Good night. Good night, Jack. Good night. I think I'm still traveling overseas. Okay.
Edward Murrow. Good night and good luck or something. All right.
Okay,
Go Chicago, man.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you all.